Do you ever wonder which words you'll wish you'd said when it's too late to speak them? Not everyone wants to talk about regrets. But those who are closest to the end of life? They carry them like quiet shadows. Not regrets about missed vacations or lost money, but about people. About love. About conversations that were never finished. Hugs never given. Apologies never spoken. This isn't just a video about sadness. It's about clarity. The kind that only comes with time, with reflection, with age. So before we begin, if you're here to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Where are you watching from? It means more than you know. Let me ask you something that might hit closer than you expect. Is there someone you used to be close with, but now, all that's left is silence? Maybe it was a sibling. A friend you haven't seen in decades. A child you had an argument with and never made up. Maybe you meant to reach out. Maybe you thought about it 100 times. But the call never happened. The letter stayed unwritten. You're not alone. Because when people reach their final years, whether sitting by a window in a quiet home or lying in a hospital bed, the deepest regrets aren't about things they did. They're about what they didn't do. The conversations they avoided. The love they didn't express. The healing they postponed, until there was no time left. Let's begin with the first and most common regret shared by seniors near the end of life. I wish I had said I'm sorry. For some, those words sat at the tip of their tongue for decades. But they never said them. Maybe they were afraid of rejection. Maybe they wanted to be right. Maybe they waited for the other person to speak first. George, 87, from Ohio, told me about the last time he saw his brother. We stopped talking after our father passed. Fought about money. I thought he'd reach out. He thought I would. Neither of us did. George's eyes welled up. I found out he died from a neighbor. I never even got to say goodbye. He keeps a photo of his brother in his wallet now. A silent reminder of what stubbornness can cost. Apologies aren't about blame. They're about peace. They're about choosing love over pride. And even if the person you need to apologize to doesn't respond, or is no longer here, you can still speak the words. Write the letter. Say the prayer. Free your heart. The second regret comes not from what people said, but from what they didn't hear. I wish I had listened more, instead of trying to be right. We all do it. We defend. We interrupt. We plan our reply while the other person is still talking. But in trying to be understood, we often forget to truly understand. Maria, 79, had a daughter who married someone she didn't approve of. I kept telling her she was making a mistake. I thought I was helping. But I wasn't listening. I didn't ask her how she felt. I just told her what I thought. Years passed. Their calls stopped. The distance grew. And Maria, now alone, says what many seniors come to realize: she didn't need my advice. She needed my ear. The saddest part? It often takes a lifetime to learn that love doesn't mean controlling. It means listening. Letting people feel safe in your presence, not judged. Now let's move to a quieter regret. The kind that builds over time. I wish I hadn't let small things destroy big relationships. I once sat with Ruth and David, both in their 80s. Married for over 60 years. When I asked about their hardest moments, David didn't talk about illness or money. He said, the closest we ever came to divorce was over towels. He smiled, then shook his head. Can you believe that? Towels. We didn't speak for days. I slept on the couch. Over something so small. Ruth added, we were young. Proud. Neither of us wanted to give in. But looking back, we almost ruined our marriage, not because of anything big, but because we thought being right was more important than being kind. That's the thing. Most relationships don't break in an explosion. They rust. A little grudge here. A cold shoulder there. And eventually, love turns into distance. Seniors who've lived through this say the same thing. None of it was worth the silence. So ask yourself, what are you holding on to that doesn't deserve your peace? Would it still matter if that person were gone tomorrow? And now, a regret that may be the quietest of all, but leaves the deepest ache. I wish I had shown more affection to the people I loved. Some families say I love you every day. Others never do. But when life nears its end, many wish they had said it more. Not because the people they loved didn't know, but because saying it would have made them feel seen, cherished, safe. Eleanor, 85, told me she never once told her father she loved him. He wasn't that kind of man, she said. And I wasn't that kind of daughter. But I think about it now. How he used to cut my sandwiches just the way I liked them. How he walked slower when I was tired. I never thanked him. Never hugged him. Never said the words. She looked down. I wish I had. Love doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't need grand gestures. It needs presence. A hand on a shoulder. A smile across the table. A quiet "I'm glad you're here." If you love someone, say it. If you miss someone, tell them. Don't let fear steal the moments that only take a second but last a lifetime. If these stories touched something inside you, let them stay with you. Let them guide your next phone call, your next message, your next hug. And if you've made it this far, thank you. Please like this video, subscribe to Elderly Reflections, and drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? I read every word. And your presence here, it matters. More than you know.
There's a man I once met in a small hospice outside of Chicago. His name was Philip. He was 91, a retired train conductor, widowed for over a decade. He didn't speak much until I asked him, if you could go back and fix one thing, what would it be? He looked at the ceiling for a long time, then said, I would have made more time for her. For my wife. That brings us to the next deep and lasting relationship regret seniors often carry near the end. I wish I had prioritized the people who loved me while I still had the chance. Philip went on to tell me how, during their 45-year marriage, he was a good provider. Never missed a mortgage payment. Kept food on the table. But he often put work, responsibilities, even hobbies, before his wife. I didn't cheat, I didn't lie, he said. But I didn't show up the way she needed. She'd ask me to go for a walk, and I'd be too tired. She wanted to talk at night, but I'd turn on the TV instead. I always thought we'd have time, he paused. And then we didn't. His story echoes what I've heard from seniors again and again. They didn't mean to take their loved ones for granted. But they did. And when they look back, they see the missed chances with painful clarity. If you're blessed to still have people in your life who love you, don't make them beg for your time. Don't assume they'll always be there. Time is a thief. And once the moments are gone, all the money in the world won't buy them back. Which brings us to another heartbreaking realization. I wish I hadn't let silence replace connection. It starts small. A missed call. A holiday with no visit. A message you meant to respond to, but forgot. And suddenly, months become years. Relationships dissolve not with a fight, but with a slow, steady silence. Claire, 84, told me about her son. He was never angry. We just drifted, she said. I didn't want to bother him. He was busy, raising his own kids. I waited for him to call, and he waited for me. And we just stopped. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, I thought about him every day. Every day. But I never picked up the phone. Many seniors realize too late that waiting for someone else to reach out means the relationship dies in limbo. Not from hate, but from hesitation. Don't wait. Call your sibling. Visit your friend. Send that message. Because the silence that feels awkward now will become a canyon of regret later. let's move to another common, often unspoken regret. I wish I had left the toxic relationships sooner. Not all relationships are meant to be repaired. Some, many, in fact, should have ended long ago. And yet, so many seniors stayed. In marriages that suffocated. In friendships that drained. In family dynamics that were abusive or cruel. Why? Because of fear. Because of duty. Because they were told. That's just how things are. Marvin, 79, spent over 40 years in a marriage where he never felt respected. She didn't hit me, he said. But she made me feel small. Every day. And I just took it. When I asked why he stayed, he shrugged. I thought being alone would be worse. But it wasn't. After she passed, he said he finally felt peace. He found companionship through books, neighbors, a small dog named Percy. I could have had this 20 years ago, he said. But I was too scared. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is walking away from what's killing you slowly. Seniors who've done that rarely regret it. The ones who stayed in pain far too long, they carry that heaviness until the end. So ask yourself, are you holding on to a relationship that steals your joy? You still have time to choose peace. Now let's talk about something deeper than fights and silence. Something that sits under the surface of almost every regret I've ever heard. I wish I had shown my true self, so people could love the real me. Many elderly people say they wore masks their whole lives. They pretended to be stronger, happier, more agreeable than they really were. They hid their fears, their opinions, their pain, because they were afraid of judgment. Afraid that if they were honest, they'd be rejected. But here's the tragedy. They still felt alone. Because even the love they received didn't reach the real person hiding underneath. Angela, 86, told me she spent her whole life pretending to be easygoing. I smiled through everything, that she said. Even when I was hurt. Even when I wanted to scream. And now, no one really knows who I am. Not even my children. The most profound loneliness isn't being physically alone. It's being surrounded by people who don't truly see you, because you never let them. Let people see you. Tell your story. Speak your truth. Don't waste your life being liked for a version of you that isn't real. And finally, here's one of the quietest but most universal relationship regrets shared by the dying. I wish I had taught my children more about love. Not by lecture. Not by punishment. But by example. So many seniors say they wish they had modeled better love, between husband and wife, between parents and friends. Not perfect love. But patient. Affectionate. Honest. Forgiving. Frank, 82, told me, I gave my kids everything, good schools, new clothes, structure. But I didn't give them affection. I thought it would make them weak. Now I see, I raised strong kids. But not close ones. He paused. I wish I'd hugged them more. If you still have the chance to show love, to a child, a spouse, a friend, don't wait. Teach by doing. Love loudly. Because at the end of life, it's not the lessons you say that matter. It's the love you showed that lasts. If these reflections are touching your heart, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Elderly Reflections. Here, we tell the stories that matter. The ones that heal. The ones that save time for those willing to listen. And I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop it in the comments below. This community is made of real souls, from all over the world, carrying wisdom worth sharing. There's a truth that hangs heavy in the rooms of those who are nearing the end of life. It's the realization that relationships, not achievements, are what define the soul. The titles fade. The money sits untouched. The house, eventually, is sold. But the words we said, or didn't say, the people we held close, or pushed away, that's what lingers. That brings us to one of the most haunting regrets seniors speak about, when everything else has gone quiet. I wish I had been brave enough to love after loss. Many older adults who lost a spouse or partner, whether in their 50s, 60s, or later, chose to never love again. Not because they didn't want to, but because they were afraid. Afraid of dishonoring the memory of their first love. Afraid of being vulnerable again. Afraid of facing another goodbye. Take Walter, 89. He lost his wife when they were both 63. "I still set the table for two, even now," he said. But then he looked down and whispered, "I had a chance to love again. A woman named Joan. Sweet, kind. She made me laugh. But I pushed her away. I told myself I couldn't do that to my late wife. But the truth is, I was just scared. Now Joan has passed too. And Walter sits alone, with a heart full of what-ifs. The elderly often say they wish they'd let themselves feel again. Love again. Start again. Because love, at any age, is not a betrayal of the past. It's a continuation of the heart's ability to heal and connect. If you've been guarding your heart, building walls around it out of grief or fear, remember, you are still alive. And where there is life, there is the possibility of love. Companionship doesn't erase what came before. It honors it by showing that love left behind a legacy, and that legacy still lives in you. Another regret that echoes in the final chapter of many lives is this. I wish I had made peace with my parents before it was too late. Some wounds go back to childhood. A strict father. A cold mother. A family that never said, "I'm proud of you." These cuts run deep, and for many, they never heal. But what breaks the hearts of the elderly is not just what was done, but the fact that they never got to talk about it. Never got the closure. Lydia, 78, told me about her mother who passed in her sleep at 83. She was hard on me. Distant. But I always hoped one day we'd have the talk. That she'd explain. Or apologize. Or hug me just once and say, "I love you." But we danced around it for 50 years. And now she's gone. What seniors often realize too late is this. Waiting for someone else to take the first step can mean waiting forever. You don't need their apology to find peace. You just need your own willingness to let go. If you're still carrying a wound from your parents, or if you are the parent who hurt Samian, you still have time to speak. Write a letter. Make a call. Ask the question. Give a hug. Even if they're gone, you can speak your truth out loud. Say what was unsaid. That, too, is healing. Now here's a relationship regret that quietly shadows so many final years. I wish I had been a better friend. In the rush of life, friendship often takes a back seat. Family gets priority. Work demands attention. And friends, the ones who knew us before we were anyone, fade into the background. Ronald, 83, told me about his best friend from high school, Teddy. We were inseparable. He said. Fishing trips. Sunday ball games. But then I got married. Got busy. Teddy called. I didn't call back. It wasn't dramatic. Just life. Years passed. And when Ronald finally looked up, Teddy was gone. I never thanked him, Ronald said. For all the laughs. For showing up when my dad died. For being the kind of friend I never knew I needed. Seniors look back and realize that good friendships are rare and worth everything. If you've lost touch with someone who once meant something to you, it's not too late. A message. A letter. A shared memory. That's all it takes to open the door again. Because friends are not just people we laugh with. They're the mirrors who reflect who we once were and who we still are. And now, we come to one of the most powerful truths whispered in the final hours of life. I wish I had known that love doesn't always look like the movies, but it was still real. Many people, especially those raised on fairy tales, spend their lives chasing a perfect kind of love. Passionate. Endless. Always easy. And when reality falls short, when the partner is flawed, or the chemistry fades, or life gets hard, they assume something is wrong. But what seniors realize, after decades of living, is that real love is not a firework. It's a fire that needs tending. It's dishes in the sink. Medicine at midnight. Forgiving again and again. Choosing to stay. Caroline, 86, said of her husband. He never bought me roses. But he warmed up my car every winter. He always left the last cookie for me. That was his way of loving. She smiled. I spent too long comparing him to men in books. I wish I had seen sooner that I had everything. Love doesn't always come wrapped in poetry. Sometimes, it comes in steady footsteps. In quiet loyalty. In the hand that reaches for yours, even when you're both too tired to speak. If you've been doubting a love that doesn't feel cinematic, pause. Look again. You might just find that it's the most profound love of all. And if you're alone, know this. Love is not always romantic. It can be found in friendships. In grandchildren. In dogs who sit by your feet. In a neighbor who waves every morning. Love is everywhere, if you stay open to it. So here we are. You've heard the regrets of the dying, not to scare you, but to free you. Free you to forgive. To reach out. To speak. To love, without delay, without conditions, without fear. Because if there's one final message seniors want you to know, it's this. It's not too late. Until it is. If this video spoke to your heart, please like it. Subscribe to Elderly Reflections for more stories, more healing, more elderly wisdom. Share it with someone you love. And tell me, where are you watching from? This isn't just a channel. It's a community. And your story belongs here. Until next time, my friend, hold your people close. Speak while your voice is still strong. And love as if you were running out of time. Because in the end, you are.